Today, we talk with Driven's very own Farrah Rooney on how to improve your donation process. Hi, and welcome to Driven's Fundraising Superheroes podcast. I am your host, Sabrina Shushente, and us here at Driven love to discuss data. If you want to get the most out of your fundraising platform, we are here to help you unlock the true power of your data while saving hours in data management. We know how hard it is to keep track of all the information you have in your database, and we want to help by being partners in your success. So to talk more about your data and how you can get the most out of it, please give us a visit at trustdriven.com. Keeping your donors happy is important in both boosting retention and improving your relationship with them. You have to be consistent with following up with your supporters and creating positive giving experiences that make it easier for them to give. Today, we are going to learn about how you can improve your online giving experience for your donors while keeping them happy and hopefully encourage them to continue to support you. I am so happy to have Driven's very own Director of Partnerships, Farrah Rooney, on the show again. She has been in the industry for more than 15 years, working as a consultant, strategist, and events manager, and having worked closely with our clients to improve their fundraising experience with our donor management software. Farrah knows what needs to go into the donation process in order to make it work. Thank you so much, Farrah, for joining me on the show.
Hi, glad to be here.
So when a donor enters an organization's donation page, what is the first thing they should see? How forward should nonprofits be, not only with their donation page, but on their actual page, advertising their donations?
On their landing page, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, their landing page.
So, really when, somebody kind of enters in their donation, an organization sort of landing page or main page or web page, they really should see a couple of things. Like one, really compelling content, even better if it's topical, alongside, a really compelling call to action. Very much recommend a big, donate now button that's very prominent, that can get that donor as soon as possible to that donation page, or that supporter to that donation page. And then also, depending on what the priorities or the type of organization or charity, there could be, other really important calls to action that you also want to make prominent. Say like Greenpeace, you might want to have like a big take action or a button that leads you to a petition or something like that. Or if an organization is really focused on acquisition, they might want to have a big sign up for our newsletter, or even have embedded newsletter signups right in the front as well. Or if they're running a big peer-to-peer campaign, they might have a big sign up for our event. Prominent. So it's really sort of thinking about, what's kind of going on with the organization, what are their priorities, but really just having a bold, big call to action, and in addition to or exclusively that donate now button, as well as having, really compelling content that's also timely, that's and related to, things that are going on charity in the world, I think can be really impactful.
Yeah, I know when COVID started, I noticed that a lot of nonprofits would put a COVID help banner. And I think that was a really good example of what you're saying. Don't be afraid to update your page, make sure that it's current and
absolutely.
helpful. Yeah,
absolutely. Or, if you're an aid organization, like when, Yemen was really big in the news, you saw a lot of, aid organizations making that a priority. Or even things like, when you're running your holiday campaigns, don't be afraid to put your holiday message, your holiday campaign branding up front as well. So it's really, it's just really being timely with your impact. What are your supporters caring about? What are they looking for? As well as how can they get involved and how can they take action? Exactly.
When they enter that donation page, how crucial is the actual format? What are the biggest things that you hope to see when you enter a donation page?
Yeah, so format is everything. And first and foremost, I sort of sound like a broken record, but making sure that it's mobile friendly is number one. And it feels crazy to still have to say that in 2021, but you still see it. And being mobile friendly doesn't necessarily just mean, that when it goes down, on a mobile phone, that it's sort of, the buttons are big or whatever, but also like think about how complicated that form is, how easy it would be for somebody to go in and, enter their information on a phone, the amount of fields that you have, all of those sorts of things, even things like, and this is something that we did early on when I was helping building out donation forms, is having the code of the donation form set so the right keyboard opens up depending on what type of field it is. So if you have a phone number, that making sure that the the number keyboard the number keyboard opens up. It's Friday afternoon, I can't talk. Versus say the alphabetical keyboard opens up. Just thinking through things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely that. Also thinking about strategically, so having the least amount of fields, but still being able to capture the information you want. So it's not necessarily about, just asking 3 things or, stripping everything out, because it's okay to, have your donation form do a little bit of heavy lifting and doing some sort of acquisition work or asking some additional questions, but making sure that it's strategic, it's not it's not overloaded, and there's the right sort of balance. One thing that I see that sort of is a problem is really around designations of funds and being overcomplicated in asking like, where do you want your funds directed, and so you have like this campaign and then this fund and this piece, and it can get really it's almost like you're asking your supporters to think like a fundraiser. Often your donors don't necessarily care where it's being directed to. They're like, the best. And they don't necessarily understand what's a campaign and what's a fund and what's all of that, that as well. So, really think about, again, who you are as an organization. Is it important to have designations? What kind of questions do you have? Like, how can you make this as simple as possible, but still be relevant to your organization? Because something like Red Cross, right? Like, designations are really important to the Red Cross. So they definitely do have designations, or, versus say something like that's maybe a animal charity or, a smaller community organization where somebody just wants to give to where there's the greatest need. And at the end of the day, those unrestricted funds are sort of the gold standard. We love those unrestricted funds as fundraisers. So that is definitely some advice I would give.
Yeah, simplicity always seems to be key, because you don't want people to get like distracted. Like, it's really nice to be interested in something, especially on the donation page, if you have a really beautiful video or a photo. But yeah, if you're linking to too many things, if you're giving too many options, it might get a little sidetracked.
Yeah, exactly. But also the flip side, don't be afraid if there is, a relevant question or something you're trying to find out, or if you're, don't also be afraid to put that on your donation form and ask that question as well. So it's a balance.
Are there any really big faux pas that you've seen that hurt those conversions?
Yeah, I mean, as I was saying, I think the designations for sure I've seen as a faux pas, and I think just kind of going back to that, it's almost like as a fundraiser, you sometimes you get sort of wrapped up in thinking about, again, like funds and campaigns and all of these pieces, and so you want to put all those options on the donation form, but your supporters don't even know what that means. They don't know what a fund means versus like whatever. So if you are doing designations, making sure that there's a good reason why, I think is one. The other faux pas I've seen is if you are running an integrated campaign in market, or if you're having your donation form be tied to a direct mail piece, is not having that content all be related. So, you have a direct mail piece that says talking about snow leopard, and then you go to the the URL that you've been indicated to go to donate online, and it's a completely different message. So not having those messages aligned and not having your integrated campaign all tied together nicely is definitely a faux pas, because as a supporter, you kind of get confused, you kind of get off track. You want to hook someone's passion on your message and on your specific call to action, and then you want to take that right through, and you want to continue that timely, urgent, message to donate now, throughout the campaign and on the landing page as well.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that it's productive to have, if you're having a really specific campaign, to go off your example about snow leopards, and usually you fundraise for general wildlife conservation, would it be smart to make a separate donation page just designated to that specific campaign?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. For lots of reasons. And one, just for measurement, right? So you want to know how the easiest way to sort of measure the success is having a unique URL for that landing page. So if you want to know how many people donated digitally off of a direct mail piece, having a unique URL that's donate now /snow leopard, you'll be able to measure with some, it's not necessarily, some people might just land there, but you can actually measure the success of their digital conversions off your direct mail piece if you have a unique URL. So definitely that's just one reason right there. And also just having that, again, you're getting people who are inspired. You're doing all that work telling the story of, say, the snow leopards. You want to continue that, especially if there's some urgency. The snow leopards are disappearing. We need, you to donate right today. Here it is, and they can go to that landing page, that digital landing page, and or digital donation form, and see that same message, and so they're still inspired to donate and convert.
Oh, okay. That's great. So this way, you're still getting that organic traffic, maybe people who visit your page regularly, and then you can really just isolate that one campaign and track the success there.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
How soon should organizations be following up after a donation? Should it be right after? Should it be a little bit after?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it should be right away. So there should be an automatic, if you can, an automatic electronic thank you with the tax receipt attached to it. That should also, is really important that the information of that thank you also be actually related to the donation of the donor. So again, if there's a campaign in market, so again, going back to the snow leopard example, if you're talking about snow leopard, the thank you and the tax receipt should have, well, not so the tax receipt, but the thank you should talk about the campaign, should talk about the snow leopard, should talk about, the impact that this donation is going to have towards that, and then follow up with the tax receipt, or the tax receipt should be attached. Things like if it's a monthly donation, they become a monthly donor, make sure to call that out versus a one-time. Even just to make sure that the donor knows that they're a monthly donor now. I became a monthly donor to an organization recently, and the email that I got back didn't indicate that I was a monthly donor at all. And I was like, is my donations coming out monthly? I hope so, because that's what I want to be. It is. Or you can also have you can also have additional calls to action in that thank you if you send it out immediately, because that's when those people are they're feeling that donor glow, right? They're most excited to support you. So ask them to share on social media that they just supported you, and if possible have a click through right on the page to be able to sort of share. Also, hey, why not? If they're a one-time donor, why not talk about the benefits of being a monthly donor? Maybe you can get them to convert to monthly right there. So it should go out right away. It can do lots of different things, and the tax receipt absolutely should be attached. Yeah, and if they don't have an email address and they have to send it in the mail, then I would definitely look at having as fast a turnaround as you can to pop that in the mail. So 48 hours, 72 hours, but really, get that out to them as soon as possible.
Is it better to always keep that receipt with the thank you? Because I know I've read in some places they recommend, sending the receipt and then sending a follow-up email just dedicated to thanking and showing gratitude. Is there one thing that works better than the other, or is it more case by case?
I mean, yeah, I would always send out the tax receipt with the thank you. I mean, if nothing else, like come tax time, which is sort of going through this right now, I don't want to be searching through and looking for tons of different emails. I want to just have it there. um, that being said, there's definitely something to be said for like follow-up thank yous to show, follow-up gratitudes. A welcome series, I'm always a fan of. So, bringing someone on, talking about who they are, welcoming them to your community of supporters, making them feel like they're a part of something, that you're very grateful. I love the idea of community, and sort of stewarding them and talking to them and letting them know that they're going to really learn about the impact of their gift throughout the year. I think is important. But yeah, I would put the tax receipt with that email. Mm-hmm. Don't make them go searching for it. If it was me. I haven't tested it, so but yeah, I would definitely do that.
Yeah, going back to keeping it simple.
Exactly, keeping it simple. Yeah.
So online giving has undoubtedly been so popular, not only because of COVID, just because we're becoming more and more digital each day, but how can nonprofits use their direct mail with their online strategies? I know we touched on it a little bit, but can you dive in a little more about it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, I mean, as an integrated marketer for many years, I think that it's essential. It's funny because you hear with digital, obviously growing, and it's going to continue to grow, fundraisers thinking that they should, scale back their acquisition or their direct mail programs. And the fact is, if you actually look at the numbers, direct mail is still a powerhouse for fundraising. It's still just like people respond to it, right? Like it can be expensive, but when you, scale back your direct mail program, typically your fundraising program declines. So it's really, it's so important to have direct mail, and it's just been proven time and again that having a digital component to that just increases, it just increases engagement, and it increases conversions. And it can look like a couple of different things. One, even just doing like a pre-email saying, hey, for those records that you have, or those constituents that you have both email and an address for, sending them a little pre-email saying, hey, I'm really excited to tell you this story. It's going to show up in your mail. Looking forward to your feedback about it. Can't wait, to connect with you. And then, sending a post email after it's dropped saying, hey, I don't know if you've had a chance to see this yet, but it's a really important story, and we hope we can hear from you. And then actually attaching a donation form, an online donation form to that, as we were sort of talking about tying it all together. And I actually just looked at some stats before, because I was curious to get the latest stats around conversion in digital when you attach digital to direct mail. And so if a campaign has one digital touch point, so like that pre or post email, it shows 118% higher response rate versus direct mail only. So that's significant. And as well, donors are 3 times more likely to give online in response than to a direct mail piece than by mail. I mean, who has stamps, right? So although it's always a good plan to have postage paid, but like that's not always the case. So really, having those options has just been proven time and again that it shows like significant, better response, better conversions when you have that digital piece tied to them. And people just frankly are just comfortable, like they're so much more comfortable giving, and they're just giving online, or doing online transactions or online shopping, especially out of COVID now, where we just online shopping has just exploded. So people maybe are a little bit more uncomfortable doing that. They're a lot more comfortable doing it now. So yeah, absolutely, it's important.
Yeah, and it must, I know you mentioned with the conversion, but it also must help with retention, because it really takes them on that journey. I know my partner is like really in love with this organization he supports, because he's a big train guy and they're into train conservation. And whenever he gets mail from them, he gets so excited, he waits. And they also send like, we're going to send you this, we're going to give you that. And I think that heads up really adds to the excitement of receiving the piece, and then following up with the call to action, which is kind of
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, upgrading is, your upgrade email is always a really important piece that happens every year. And you send it out to those, those one-time donors that are supporting you, and they ask you to convert to monthly. That's a huge, tactic for charities that tends to do really, really well. Like for sure. The other thing, actually, I also just wanted to touch on that I realized I moved back on that I think is worth considering is thinking about fundraising programs and tying them all together is really thinking about integrating your legacy program into your donation forms as well. And that can just be as simple as, kind of going back to saying, okay, what kind of questions or what kind of, where's the balance of having a little bit of additional information on those donation forms versus like still making them simple. I mean, I'm always interested to explore putting a question or two at the end around legacy and saying, have you put us in your will? Have you considered putting us in your will? Do you want us to send you more information? If so, can we reach out to you? And really sort of looking at weaving legacy questions and your legacy program into some of their sort of direct response marketing. The charities that have done that have really, really great response and have been able to really grow their legacy programs and find those legacy donors that they didn't even know were there. A lot of times you don't even know your legacy donors until unfortunately they've already passed and you're getting parts of their estate. So definitely something to think about in your digital strategy, your donation form strategy for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's something I didn't even think to mention. That's a great piece of advice.
Yeah.
Lastly, how crucial is management to help automate the giving process? What are the benefits that having all this can give to your nonprofit and to your donors?
Like having a CRM, do you mean? Like,
yeah, having a CRM.
Yeah. I mean, it's essential, right? Like you can't do, you really can't do this work. You can't really roll out a program like this unless you have a CRM that's tied to, an online marketing platform, right? So, having a really, having clean data, being able to track your data, being able to, track your constituents and your supporters, so who's lapsed. You can run your LBUT, you can run, your LBUT reports and or your lapse reports, and look at all of your different segments and understand, who you can follow up with and, who you can renew and who, like all of the things we've talked about. That's all. And you can't do that without a CRM. It's just, I wouldn't even know how. Also just being able to, automate a lot of this stuff is so important, because you can't really, it's so hard to scale these programs if you're sitting there having to write things out by hand or having to like track things with an Excel sheet. So really, having a CRM and having those proper marketing and communication tools, like you're having your email tied to it, having that connection, better yet, if it's purpose built, so you don't have to worry about a third party connection or some, integration or something that might break. But having everything in one place, having that clean data is absolutely essential. And, you can do a lot for not a huge investment, and it really will pay off even just with your, return on investment or your with staff time. I was talking to somebody today and he was just thinking about all of the possibilities that, a new CRM could bring. And he's like, what, like at the end of the day, like all of the automations and all of the efficiencies would really be worth the extra, couple $100 a month, even for a smaller charity. So especially as they're growing. So
yeah, it really centralizes everything. We talked about simplicity for your donor, but it also needs to be simple for you, right? Because you can have time to like go and find things and organize them yourself.
Yeah, and just even like audit time. if you don't have a good CRM, if you don't have a system that's managing your donations, that can just be a total nightmare. So yeah, important.
And that is all for today's show. Thank you again, Farrah, for coming onto the podcast. It's always nice to have other people from Driven on to talk with me. And if you're listening and you want to get in contact with Farrah, you can go to trustdriven.com/contact and reach out to us there to learn more about donor retention, data-driven fundraising, or anything else you need help with. We would love to speak with you. You can also follow us on social media and subscribe to the show in order to be updated when new podcasts are live and to get other free podcast and fundraising resources. So I've also linked those in the description box. And as always, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time on Fundraising with Superheroes.